Welcome to the Life You Crave. Simple and sustainable weight loss for women who have better things to do than diet. I'm your host, Leah Pinelli. I help ambitious, badass women stop overeating, overworking, and overgiving to lose weight from a place of love. I'll help you simplify weight loss, end your overwhelm, and create the life you crave. If you like what you hear, please like and subscribe to this podcast. Let's get started.
Hey friends. So this week in my VIP client group, we are creating what I call TLYC morning routines, or the Life You Crave morning routines. And morning routines are super trendy and popular for a good reason. They have the potential to change the trajectory of your entire day and thereby your entire life. It's the compound effect at work, right? Which is that same concept that we employ with our savings accounts, for example. You deposit a little something consistently, and it grows into a good chunk of money over time, making a potentially huge impact on your life. My morning routine does something similar. It organizes my entire day. And if you really think about it, our lives are just an accumulation of the minutes in the day, the minutes that stack up into days. And our days, our routines, rituals, and habits, that's what creates our lives. Your life, as it is today, at this moment, is simply the result of the habits and routines you've invested in, either intentionally or unintentionally. And this is important. If you don't have the life you crave just yet, if you're feeling chronically dissatisfied with your health or career, marriage, whatever, it's most likely because you're being unintentional with these minutes that stack up into our days that creates our lives. My life used to look very, very different than it does today. I was so harried. I would hit the snooze button until the last minute and then scramble as if my hair were on fire to get out the door. I was constantly rushing. I'd be short-tempered and yelling at everybody in my household on my way out the door. And then I would shovel breakfast into my mouth as I drove to work, pissing other drivers off with my poor driving etiquette, just desperate to get to work on time. And then I would fly into my office with, I'm sure my blood pressure was just through the roof. And I was making all the excuses about traffic or some other snafu that allegedly, according to me, was out of my control. My workday as a school leader back then was really demanding and fast-paced. There was never a moment to breathe, really, let alone to go to the bathroom. And I would wolf down my lunch at my desk in between meetings and honestly, practically mainline caffeine and chocolate to get me through the day. My day was, it felt like it was never over because in education, like in so many other professions, there's always more work to be done. But eventually I had to pack up because I had to get my son from daycare. I would sit in traffic, exhausted, and I would fantasize about the bottle of wine that I would open and the wheel of brie that I would inhale when I got home. I'd pick up my little guy, and I would get home and soothe my stress with food. By 8 p.m., I was even more tired from the wine and overeating, always overeating at dinner. But I still had to get through bath time and bedtime routine, and of course, I had to get through the obligatory damage control after inevitably picking a fight with my husband because, if I was overwhelmed, it was always somehow his fault. I was living my life on autopilot without intention. I was living on default mode. I was reactive instead of proactive. I wasn't sleeping well. I was overeating and overdrinking, and I definitely wasn't getting the exercise I needed. I was constantly disappointed in myself and my husband and in everything. Being someone who was chronically disappointed was not who I wanted to be. I'm a high achiever. I have a super strong zest for life, And that just didn't feel like me. I wanted something different though, something more. The way to change anything is to first decide that you're going to figure it out no matter what. And then the second is to start building habits that drive you toward who you want to be. This episode is about exactly that, starting with your morning routine. Today, I'm going to teach you how to build your own TLYC morning routine to organize your life by organizing your brain, which will become the blueprint for achieving and maintaining your goals in a way that feels like love. The key to achieving and maintaining your goals is to organize your brain and therefore organize your day around those goals. If I say I want to eat healthier, sleep better, exercise more, focus more at work, I have to start by organizing my day to achieve those things, and then organizing my brain to drive towards those goals. Here's what that looks like for me. First, I had to get really clear on what my values were and what my goals are. What did I really want? Well, I knew I wanted three things after I thought about it for a little while. One, I wanted mental clarity. I wanted to be at peace mentally. I also wanted good physical health. And lastly, I wanted to make a big impact in the world. And that includes at home, at work, and in my community. In order to achieve these things, I needed to set myself up for a daily routine that automated these things so that I didn't have to think about them. So I boiled it down to 5 things I really wanted to include in my day, every day. First was hydration. Being well hydrated is paramount to physical health and to mental clarity. Next, I wanted to be a regular meditation practitioner because meditation, as you probably know, supports mental clarity, physical health, and making a big impact in the world because you can see so much more clearly and be so much more present in the moment. Therefore, prioritizing the things that are most important as opposed to letting yourself get distracted. The third thing that I really wanted was physical wellness, or to have a physical wellness baseline, meaning even if I didn't have a bunch of time to exercise, I always had some practice that I would return to that would keep me physical. The fourth thing is I knew I wanted to include some kind of mental flossing, as I call it. So mental flossing for me can look like a lot of different things. It can look like getting coached by my coach. It can look like going to therapy if I'm currently in therapy. But when I don't have access to those things daily, it looks like journaling and really using strategic journaling, which I will share more about later. And the last thing I knew I really wanted to include in my day was a moment to really ritualize the daily commitments to becoming someone who, as I call it, meaning becoming someone who has regular mental clarity, good physical health, and someone who makes a big impact in the world. So once I had distilled down these 5 things that I knew I wanted to include because those 5 things would support the things that I most wanted, mental clarity, physical health, making a big impact, I figured out how to condense these things into what I call as a minimum baseline. It's just at a minimum, this is what I can do every day to make sure that I am reverse engineering becoming someone who does and has all of these things. So here's how I do it in 15 minutes or less every morning. Now, some mornings I do go longer. If I have more than 15 minutes, I will definitely spend more than 15 minutes on my morning routine. But at a minimum, to be honest, I could do my morning routine in 10 minutes. Because even if I don't hit all 5 of these things every single morning, I always hit at least 3. Usually 4, but always at least 3. So let me walk you through what my 15-minute TLYC morning routine looks like for me. And please keep in mind that you're going to customize this for you. So I'm going to give you steps at the very end of this podcast. I'm going to be giving you the steps that you need. And it's actually just 4 steps that you need in order to create your own TLYC podcast, girl. Morning routine. Here we go. First, I wake up And the first thing I do is I do give my teeth a quick brush, but I'm not including that in my morning routine here because I like to have my mouth nice and clear and clean. But the first thing I do in my morning routine is I drink warm water while my tea brews. So I fill the electric kettle with enough water for my teapot, but also for a cup of warm water that I can drink right away. And I prepare this water because when you really think about it, when you have a physical ailment, you are distracted. You are distracted by the tension in your shoulders. You are distracted by the pain in your hip. And if you are distracted, it is much harder to focus on your most important work, on making an impact. And since I desire to make an impact and to feel focused and clear, have clarity throughout my day, it is crucial that I prepare my body to support my focus and to support my impact as opposed to detracting from it. So I start by giving my body that gentle hydration that it craves with some warm water to begin. Next, while I sip that warm water, I also sit in meditation. Now, listen, I know some of you are like, oh, I know I need to meditate, but I never do it. And I'm just like you. I am a very busy hyperachiever. So sitting in meditation is usually the last thing that I want to do. But I know that it's integral to my performance at work. And my performance is made by my focus and clarity. My ability to focus is informed by my ability to be in the present moment and filter out distractions. So I sit in meditation to enhance my ability to do that when I most need it. I still my mind when I really don't need to, so that I can access that skill when I most need to. And this doesn't have to take long. 5 minutes is my minimum, right? Just 5 minutes. I can always find 5 minutes. I shouldn't say always. Usually, mostly, I can find 5 minutes. But I will sit longer when I decide to make it a priority to do so. The next thing I do is I take just a few minutes to undo the kinks in my physical body. This loops back actually to that goal of mental clarity and focus. If I'm carrying, like I said, that tension in my neck or shoulders or hips, I'm not going to be able to focus as well. But a body free of aches and pains allows for a brain to laser focus on what is most important. And when done regularly, this takes just a few minutes each morning or longer if you want it to. Now, let me also just add a little footnote here that I do get more exercise than just a few minutes of movement, but it's a part of my later morning routine. And in this episode, I really just want to focus on my critical morning time routine, the first things I do when I wake up that really sets up my brain to create the life that I crave. When I was in leadership, making time for exercise like I am able to do now was far more challenging. I now work for myself so I can make my own schedule. But I also know that if it is truly a priority for you, if it is truly important to you, you will find a way. And finding a way is exactly the type of challenge that we overcome in my 90 Days to Food Freedom program. And I'd be more than happy to talk with you on a call about supporting you in that. You can head over to leahpinelli.com to learn more and sign up to chat with me. Okay. So after I've gotten the kinks out of my physical body by doing a bit of gentle yoga, I then sit down because now my tea has brewed. And now keep in mind, we're only about 10 minutes in. I'm not spending a ton of time doing this. I grab my journal and I grab my freshly brewed tea and I do what I call mental flossing, right? This is where I just get all my thoughts down on paper. I'm pulling all the gunk that's hiding in the tight spots so that I can really keep things squeaky clean in there. And again, this could be just 5 more minutes, right? And I'm going to be honest with you, sometimes I do it on the toilet. So I always find time, right, for what is most important to me. And what I like to do in my journal is I do brain dumps. And actually, I have many methods of journaling. And I'm actually going to be recording a whole separate podcast on journaling, mental flossing, as I call it, to give you lots more ideas. But for now, I want to share with you the journaling tool that I use to really get myself focused on becoming that woman who makes an impact, has mental clarity, and great physical health each day. So what I do is I write down what are the most important tasks or projects or things that must be accomplished today that would move the needle the most toward becoming the woman who I want to be? And now this could be work-related tasks, it could be personal, or it could be both. An example of this might be, and I'll give you a work example, that I might be focused on my work day and I have a million things to do on my work day, but the top 3 most important things that I need to focus on using my skills from sitting in meditation is to submit my speaker application, for example, for a summit that I'm applying to speak at, to follow up with clients and to connect with some of the amazing women that I met at that conference. Those are my top 3 things that if I do those 3 things today at work, I will feel like I really hit the most important, the highest impact activities that I could possibly do in my business that day. These are my top priorities. It's going to move the needle the most in my business. And I might do the same exact thing for my family, right? What are the most important things that I do during my family time tonight? And I know one for sure is checking in with my child about school, helping him maintain a routine and do his chores, and then also meaningfully connecting with my husband and my family at work. At dinner. So those are some examples of how I might identify in my journal the most important things that I want to make sure that I execute on that day. And then finally, in my journal, I make my daily commitments. And what I mean by daily commitments is really committing to becoming someone who doesn't just think about these things, but really executes on these actions with determination and clarity and commitment. And that requires doing things when we don't really want to do them, when we don't have the courage to do them. It means really generating those feelings intentionally by doing that mental flossing and focusing, meditating, moving your body in ways that feel like love, so that the culmination of it all really does result in you becoming the person who does these things every single day because it's just part of your routine. So that's my basic morning routine: warm water, meditation, movement, tea, and mental flossing. And I can do the whole thing in under 15 minutes. I can also take 2 hours to do it if I want to. But what's really required is that I just get up out of bed every morning before my family with enough time to do it, and more time if I want more time. And that requires a commitment to go to bed early enough to get the rest I need to feel good getting up. I remember when I learned this lesson for myself, I realized that my morning routine really starts at night, because it starts with the commitment to going to bed at a time that allows you to get the rest you need, so that you are not compelled to hit that snooze button 900 times like I used to. This morning routine preps my brain and my body for who I want to be that day. And since my life is just many todays compounded, I'm creating the life I crave one morning at a time. Clear, focused, grounded, and organized around my priorities. And like I said, I don't always get to all 5 of these every single morning, but I always hit 3. And that's what keeps me on track to becoming the woman I want to be, making an impact and living well. So here is, in summary, how you can create your own TLYC morning routine. Number 1, decide what's most important to you. What do you want? What are your goals? Get really clear on that. Number 2, ask yourself, what actions does someone who already does these things or has these things, what are they doing? What are their habits that support those goals? What kind of mental or physical routines do I need to implement in order to achieve those goals? And I'll just give you a little hint, a little baseline to get you started is, for most of us, it's hydration, meditation, movement, and mental flossing. These are like the basics, right? And you might tweak from there. You might add something. Some of you might be like, I absolutely have to get my heart pumping every single morning, even if it's, a 30-minute run or a 5-minute sprint or whatever. And that's not me. That's not on my morning routine. I do, like I said, get my exercise later in the day, but it's really important that you customize this for yourself, and you can start with those basics. Number 3 is to make the routine doable. This is huge. I know most of you who are listening to me are high achieving women in leadership positions, education, mental health, and we have very, very overcommitted lives. We are overworked and overcommitted and overachieving. And so we often will tend to get really black and white about this, or I shouldn't say black and white. It's really all or nothing. It's like, well, if I'm not training for a marathon, I might as well sit on the couch. And it's like, no, we're not going to let the pendulum swing that way, because it's really about implementing the habits. And keep in mind too, that we have different seasons of our lives. So when my son was a toddler, I had far less of a commitment to the amount of physical activity that I'm currently getting now that he's 8, right? Because I have more time to myself to do that. So just keep in mind that this will be fluid and flexible as you go, but it's important that you make that routine doable. And the key to that is establishing your values in step 1. That's where you know if you're on the right track, is if your values are represented in your routine and on your calendar. And the last step 4, is to commit. You have to commit to this. This takes some commitment. This is not just something that, you just decide and then it automatically happens. You decide and then you commit to it. So commit no matter what. Either way, you have a morning routine, right? You either have an intentional one or an unintentional one. My morning routine used to be hitting the snooze button and then running around like a chicken with my head cut off, screaming at everybody. That used to be my morning routine. I didn't want that morning routine anymore. I swapped it out for this one. But remember, you're in control. You get to decide. You can swap it out and you can create the life that you crave unapologetically. That's what I have for you all today. If you want to talk about this more, I would love to chat with you over at leahpinelli.com. You can sign up for a curiosity call with me. And I would love to just hear more about how you are implementing your own morning routines and how I can support you to really, truly create the life you crave unapologetically. That's all for now. Ciao, everybody.
You've been listening to The Life You Crave. I lost 30 pounds years ago without dieting, willpower, or deprivation. I'm on a mission to help other women, including you, do the same. You can book a free weight loss strategy session with me over at leahpinelli.com. That's LIAPINELLI.com. See you on our next call or on the next episode. And remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on iTunes.